Hey, we made it. We're here.
We're
we
back.
made it. We're here. I'm Sunny D.
And I'm Captain J.
And we're the Pot Smoking Moms. Hey, if you like our show, please rate, review, subscribe, share. Be friends with us. Hit us up on all social medias. PotSmokingMoms.com is the domain we own. Go check it out.
As always, we always like to start our show with a little smoke sesh. So if you got it, please join us in a little smoke sesh. I got me some RS11 from Cookies.
Oh, nice. Well, look, okay, this is the thing. I smoked the animal face during our pre-sesh session. And now I'm also going to be smoking the RS11
from
so
Cookies.
that we can really give it a good opinion later.
All right, cheers. I was already pretty baked from our pre-sesh and our pre-sesh.
That's pretty great. That's really good.
Good, right?
We can guarantee you we are recording now because we made it a point to remember that this time and not get too baked. I mean, we might have still gotten too baked, but we're good.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, we'll make it.
So we've been on a break. We were on a holiday break. We had Christmas and New Year's and all these things happened since we've been out. Yeah, so I had a really good holiday. It was nice to see the Dolphins beat the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh yeah, that was a treat.
I was with my dad, who's a huge Cowboys fan.
That was a real holiday treat. I feel like that's the norm for Thanksgiving is like the Cowboy fans and the Dolphin fans usually like. It was the same in my family back in the day. My dad and my brother were huge Cowboys fans. I wasn't really a fan of football, but then I married my husband. He's a big Dolphin fan. So now I'm a Dolphin fan.
Now you're a Dolphin fan.
Yeah.
Dolphin.
Are you scaring us with that sexy music again?
In the sexy music again.
I don't know. Would that keep people more in tune with is if we have the sexy music in the background? Sexy music, spa music. I don't know. What do you consider this? This is lo-fi. I have been getting into the lo-fi myself.
Yeah, lo-fi is good like when you're working.
Yeah, that's what I've been listening to. I like that too. They say it also lo-fi has an effect on your brain. It helps you focus. It helps you concentrate. I think that's very interesting.
But now, other than the holidays, I haven't had anything very interesting going on.
I know. We were kind of like, we were putting together the show, you guys, and we were like, we haven't done any.
What are the updates?
What are the interesting things that we're up to? Nothing. Trying to survive, basically, is how it goes. Being a mom. We haven't done anything too exciting. We do have we have exciting news, but not really because it could have happened.
Oh yeah,
right.
That was the most exciting thing that we had happened during our break.
We got offered a maybe to
contacted by MGM.
Yeah, to have an interview with Snoop Dogg, because apparently, I guess they were trying to figure out what the press is gonna be. He's got a new movie coming out called Underdogs, and we had a chance.
Were just like, is this real? Is this a real person?
Yeah, like, I had screenshotted it and sent it to the team, sent it to Uncle Jesse and Jay, going like, is this real? Should I respond to this? Like, this looks like maybe kind of weird. It was verified.
No, we did our due diligence and it was real. It was real.
We almost had an opportunity to interview Snoop Dogg.
Didn't get
it. And it sucks too because you get so excited and you're like, oh, this is really great. This is a really great opportunity. You want to shout it from the tops of all the mountains, but it's kind of like kills.
It's like
to have to go back and be like, wow, this didn't work out.
I'm sure they're contacting many different
right.
podcasts. And you know what? Maybe they were just I don't know.
The
We
real
were very lucky.
surprise,
It was surprising they
it
even
was
reached out to
right.
us.
I mean, it was really nice that we were even on their radar,
Even
right?
though we're the Florida Cannabis Awards
Yeah,
best media.
please. If you haven't noticed, we're flexing hardcore right now. We'd like to call your attention to our award.
Our award here. Thank you
Yeah.
for the award, Florida Cannabis Awards.
I just want
for the
to
Florida
I
Cannabis
just want to
Festival.
pull it out. I
Oh.
know I'm making a mess, but it's a substantial award, you guys. They actually went out of their way to handcraft. No, I don't think handcraft,
But yeah, but
to get
have
a
it
piece of
made.
a nice, heavy, sturdy piece of wood and to shout it from the rooftops that we are the best. cannabis media
2023's
source.
best cannabis media source. That was very nice. Thank
Yeah,
you for
that's
voting
cool.
for us. For those of you that voted for us
For
on that.
those of you who voted, we proudly display
So you
your
know,
efforts.
I
and
can
our
understand
efforts
why they
out there.
contacted us. You know,
What?
that's why they contacted us. Not just this, but
Oh,
like we are
right. We are the best cannabis news source, as mentioned on this award.
exactly.
So of course they hit us up and was like, "Yo, it would be an honor for Snoop Dogg." They didn't say that part, but
They were
whatever.
like,
It was
would
an
you be
opportunity.
interested? And
It
we're like,
was-
yeah, of course we'd be interested.
Yeah,
Like who would say no
what
to
the
that?
hell?
What podcast?
Right. Oh, you know,
No,
I don't think so.
not really.
I honestly, my immediate thought of that was like, Snoop Dogg has time to fucking be on our podcast? Like, no way. That guy has 80,000 products.
He's doing like a
He's
million
in-
things at all
That
times.
guy is like King Projects. He has.
Did
all
you
kinds
see
of
he's
shit.
gonna be
What does he not do?
commentating? He's gonna be an announcer during the Olympics in Paris.
Of fucking course. You know who else should be an announcer with him? Leslie Jones. How awesome would that be if those two were announcing that shit? That would be fun. Make the Olympics fun again, you guys. No, but that guy's doing everything.
Yeah.
How would he have time to be on a podcast?
But we did get a screening for the movie.
We did. We
get
did.
to see the
We
movie
did. We're gonna
before
get
the
to see
movie is a movie.
Did you see the trailer?
Yeah, I saw the trailer.
It's pretty fun.
It looks funny. It
It's-
looks really fun.
There's a lot of cursing from the start, and I was like, "Whoa!"
It's like, whoa, is this a kids movie? Because I
Yeah.
thought it might be
Because there's
it's
kids
like,
in it.
yeah,
It's like a Bad News Bears kind of movie.
exactly. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like coaching
The
football,
underdogs.
little kids,
Underdogs,
football.
literally.
Yeah,
That's the name of the
underdogs.
movie. So we're gonna get a sneak peek. We're gonna be able to get the movie to watch the movie before everybody else gets to watch a movie. We're gonna do a little movie night with our patrons to watch Snoop Dogg's movie. So at least we got a fun, like a little
Yeah.
thing planned
A
out
little
of it.
preview we get.
You know, I manifest the Snoop Dogg into our lives.
One day we will.
And I was I told her, she's like, "Oh my God." And I'm just like, this is meant to
I
be.
was in shock.
I just was amazed that it was happening that quick as it was.
I was in shock. I was
But-
like, is this real?
Yeah.
It was
But
real.
It was real, but we didn't, it was too
Next
real.
We'll be another step closer, hopefully.
Yeah, next time. We will get to meet Snoop Dogg, you guys.
It's
So,
gonna happen.
eventually.
We're gonna sash with him.
So the construction in my house is complete since we're catching up.
Yeah,
And I'm so
congratulations.
happy. Yeah, my bathroom. I have a brand new bathroom. It looks great. I got the black toilet. I got a black toilet.
You got a
bro.
black toilet. How is that? How's that
It's
holding
fucking
up?
cool.
How long have you had it?
Looks.
How is it
amazing.
with like dust and stuff? You can't see.
I know. It looks good.
It's
It's fine.
keeps nice and clean.
I mean, you gotta clean it. It's
Of
not
course.
like you, but it's good. It's cool. I don't know. Anything from what I had
Just
is
a
an
black
upgrade.
toilet. That's so interesting.
I know, right? That's why we got it. And then in the reviews, we're like, "Oh, let's see what people say about it." And then one of the reviews was, "I got it. I got the black toilet." That was the review, and that's all the deal. I was like, "Yeah, Robert, I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that's like, I got it. It's me. I got the black toilet." It's a black and white bathroom, so
A
it makes
black
sense.
toilet.
It's not like I have like a whole scheme going with a black toilet randomly. It's like it's a thing. It's a black and white.
Yeah, it matches the decor of
Yeah,
the
right. The theme of the thing. So, but it's cool, man. I'm happy to have a new bathroom. I wanted to set my old one on fire, so here we are. So I watched a movie, you guys. Recently, we're talking about. So sometimes we get into conversations when we're like smoking on Discord. And we're having our little Discord smoke sesh with the ladies, with the other pot smoking moms. who we had the pre-sesh with, who
Mhm,
are in
mhm.
our live studio audience. I mean, sort of. But that movie, Leave the World Behind, you guys had been talking about it. I think you guys
We
even
saw it.
mentioned that the at the end was lackluster.
Yes.
And then I just kind of was like, oh, let me see what's up with this. You know how I feel about 2 hour movies? I feel like it's way too long. It's 30 minutes too long for me, and it usually takes more than one try. This one took me 3 tries because I was telling you yesterday. There was
Mhm,
a
mhm.
scene where the kid starts pulling out his teeth, and I was like, fuck, I'm not ready for this. It's too late. I've had a very stressful day. Do not want to have to deal with this. So I had to stop it. But then I was like so invested in it, like I had to finish
You had to
it.
come back.
And so it was cool. It was good. But the end, yeah, it was kind of like
Yeah, the end was
eh,
lackluster. They leave it like they kind of leave it up to you
to
to
figure it out, sort of.
they give you an idea of how it ends up happening, but like I think it's also kind of left to like what would you do in that scenario? What do you think?
Oh, thank you, Uncle Jesse, hooking it up.
Leave the World Behind. It's on Netflix. Has Julia Roberts, Ethan
Well,
Hawke.
which I'm also a fan of the actors, which is another reason. Like this guy, everybody in this movie was pretty great. They did a pretty good job.
Yeah, it was a really good movie. I enjoyed it, but the end, yes, it was like, really? Come on, I want to know what
Yeah, I
happens.
was like, oh, okay, but
It's kind of like The
that's it.
Sopranos ending.
Yeah, it's very abrupt, and
I
that
hope
kind
that
of
that
you
wasn't
invest in
really
it.
like
Give you 2 hours. It's like I
that
will
wasn't really
always.
spoiler alert, was it?
Oh, they're not listening that hard. They probably smoked
Spoiler
anyways. They
alert.
missed it. Don't go back and listen to that then. But I don't know. Yeah, it was interesting. It was good. I wouldn't not recommend it,
Hmm.
you know. It's something to watch. Okay.
I thought it was good.
It was decent. It was
Yeah.
decent storytelling, and the acting was great. I really enjoyed the acting.
We watched Saltburn, and
You
I
guys keep talking about that one and how crazy it was, and everybody at the Discord the next morning, everybody was like, "I can't believe we watched that movie last night," and I was like, "What happened?" And I keep thinking, "What happened?" Because everybody was so like, "Oh my god, what happened?" You know,
it's actually such a great movie, and it's very well shot, very beautifully done. It just has a few
questionable
scenes that it
moments.
can be a bit graphic and
Okay,
shocking.
sexually. Wow, that was a sexually
I don't want to
okay.
give it away because I
All
want
right,
you
all
to
right,
watch the
all right.
movie.
Is it a 2 hour movie? How is it? 3 hours?
Selena, everything is 2
I think
hours.
it's okay. We'll try.
Everything is 2
I know,
hours.
but it is two
Everything
shot.
nowadays is 2
It's a
hours.
2 shot situation. When you
Yeah.
think of what the time we have, as exhausted as we are after mothering and working for the capitalistic society we live in,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't have much time to pay attention to things, so it might take me a little bit
I do wish
get it.
we had recorded watching that movie together just to
to get the
see our
reaction
shocking
shots. Yeah, you're
reactions
saying
to
that.
some of the scenes. It's just, let's just say the trailer like made me suspect the movie was going to be completely different than what it ended up being to me. It was
Yeah.
really good though. Well done.
All
Beautifully
right.
done.
If it's a good movie, then I will watch it. We
I
can.
would pay to see your reactions.
Oh yeah. Maybe we should set it up then. Maybe we should set it up. Mic me up. Mic me up, Jesse. We could skip this, I guess. I hate TikTok, guys. Just this formal announcement about I hate TikTok because they try to everything is selling me. So I feel like everything's a fucking advertisement
I
now.
automatically swipe away from everything that's
It's
TikTok
so,
shop.
and then they try to really hard to sell. They try to hard sell you on certain things.
Swipe.
Right now, they're trying to sell me the chair. They're still trying to sell me the chair. Trying to sell me the desk, the electronic, the what is it?
It
Standing
knows
desk.
you're doing your
The popping
office.
game. That stupid fucking popping game.
Yeah.
Fuck. And then everybody in the live with the brush, the scrub
The
brushes.
scrub brush. I get the
Oh
scrub
my
brush a
god,
lot
I
too.
can't. And then you know what? Something else that makes me really mad is when I go to someone's page to look at just their videos, and I'm swiping through the video, and they stick an ad in there from somebody else. How
What?
is
I've
that?
never seen
Yes,
that.
bro. A random ad in the feed when you start coasting, when you start looking through the person's videos
Uh-huh.
in like the scroll mode,
Uh-huh.
they'll stick ads in there too. Even though you're in the person specific page.
I've never had that happen to
Oh
me.
my god. I hate it. Anyways, fuck TikTok at this
Yeah,
point.
they gotta make their money, right?
I guess everybody's got to make their money because everybody gets, everybody has
We were spoiled going in so
their little
long ago when there was
fucking
less of that,
thingy,
when there was none of that.
paid promotion.
Yeah.
This is another thing. Joe Koy at the Golden Globes. I fucked that word up. The
I just
Gloating
noticed the way you
Globes.
spelled it.
I put that one backwards. Did you guys peep Joe Koy at the Golden Globes?
I didn't watch the Golden Globes because I was
I didn't
watching
either.
football.
But I saw the hubbub about the comedian.
I saw clips and it was very hard to watch.
Yeah. So
I
it was very hard to read. And then I was like, I can't believe it's that bad. And then I
Yeah.
watched it and I was like, oh my God, it is that bad. I've never been a big fan of Joe Koy. Let's
know
start from the
nothing about him.
I'm
I've
going to start
never
from the
been-
comics perspective. You've never heard of him before?
like I don't know
Okay, okay.
comics. Like
He's not that mainstream, I feel like. I feel like he's more of like
my husband knows who he is.
the improv comedy club, good guy, right? And I figured like, okay, the Golden Globes have been through a lot of turmoil the last couple of years. In addition to the fact that guys awards, really, it's everybody peacocking and it's just a big fucking circle jerk. Like, come on, can we all agree on this? Can we all fucking see it for what it is? These people are paying to get these awards because they're trying everything they can do to be put in front of all the right people who need to vote them in for whatever the fuck. So whatever. But they hired Joe Koy and he's kind of like, I feel like he's like a PC. Like he's like, I could understand. He's a safe choice. He fucking died out there. Like, it's a hard audience. I'm gonna give it to him on this one hand.
It's a very hard room.
It's a super hard room because everybody's ego is competing with each other. Okay. And there's been a lot of, stuff happening in the award show recently. So, it's a really hard. I would never touch it. Not that I would ever even be in that kind of situation.
Sunny D hosting the
Yeah,
Golden Globes.
and I'd be like, yeah, all right, okay. So like I gotta give it to him, and I do believe the fact that they did give him a short notice, and I think that's
Makes
Hollywood.
you wonder why they didn't have a host 10 days before.
And who fucking knows? Those people are all over the place. Who knows what they're offering to who, and who's saying yes and who's saying no, and what the terms and conditions are, and all that kind of shit.
And he's just like straight out like saying, I just got the job 10
So
days
this is
ago.
my thing.
I didn't write all these jokes.
To me, granted, okay, he's trying to recover from fucking crashing. But on the one hand, hey, do you not see the jokes that you're given? So they gave him 10 days, okay, which is not a lot of notice, but fucking please. If you're a professional comedian who's been doing this all your life, getting paid big bucks to do stand-up, I mean, I'm not saying to say big bucks. He is a successful stand-up comedian and he gets work and he works and he does movies and he's like, whatever, he's working. But if he's been doing it for such a long time, which he has, there's a certain air of professionalism that you would expect from him. And when he fucking threw everybody under the bus, including the writers, I was like, that shit is amateur fucking behavior. Like, I understand under the circumstances that he was given that was his resort. But like, to me, that shows his character. That's why, like, I thought he was okay. He was palatable. People enjoyed his comedy. And I understood it. When I saw him, he's fun. He's entertaining. He's nice. Whatever. But like, he threw his writers under the bus too, man. He was like, "Oh, all the jokes I'm writing, you're laughing at.
The ones I wrote, you're
and
laughing
it's like, that is so fucking shady for someone to say that, to just fucking throw the whole bus under the bus is what the fucking guy did. Poor writers. But on top of that, did he not get the script beforehand? All of the sexist jokes about Barbie. I'm like, guy, those jokes are so like popsicle stick. They're not even like
Not good.
well thought out, written. It was just like pretty trash. Anywho, very entertaining. If you'd like to watch what not to do when being a host at the awards show, look up Joy Koy and Golden
But
Globes.
it's just nobody wants to do that gig anymore.
I mean, it's
No
hard.
one wants
Yeah,
to do
of
those
course.
gigs. So like that shows
And
a lot,
yeah. Why are we fucking parading around doing these types of shows? Why does it have to be all that? Make it evolve into something else then, right? I don't know. That's just my Sunny D's hot take.
On that topic.
Yeah, and then I wanted to talk about Cat Williams, but you didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it. I've seen clips on TikTok. I've heard others talk about it, but I didn't watch the full Cat
Yeah.
Williams interview.
Very fun. Very interesting. I love Cat Williams. I've always loved Cat Williams. I think every single special I've seen him do, and every time he's done stand up, I've been like, this guy is genius.
Yeah,
I've always laughed. The guy is real as fuck. I think part of his deal is that he's an exaggerator. That's part of comedian. That's our shtick. That's what we do. How would we be good storytellers if we didn't have to embellish things to make people want to listen to it? So I understand when some people are going back and forth about the. He said he had read so many books when he was a young kid, and which obviously he's a smart guy. He doesn't have to prove it. You could just
Mhm.
listen to his comedy and understand that he's a smart guy. He's wild and smart, but very entertaining. He says a couple of really fun things about the comedy community. So if you're into stand-up comedy, I would say listen to it.
It's like a 2-hour long interview.
It's 2 hour. Yes, I didn't hear the whole thing. I was trying to
I was
get.
gonna say you can't sit through a 2-hour long movie, but could you listen to the whole interview?
No, I didn't. And that's why one of our friends, Lauren, did, and I was trying to juice her for some more information because I kept seeing like random clips of things. I thought I saw most of it.
Yeah.
Then I saw some more stuff. He talks about weed on it too. He talks about how like that's
He's
what
always
he does.
gonna have it on him. It's his
Yeah,
medicine.
and that's what he does. He
Yeah.
smokes weed, does drinks. He doesn't do anything else. People have accused him, I guess, of doing
Those
other
are some of the
things.
clips I've seen.
Yeah, but and if you I'm a big fan of Atlanta. I'm a huge fan of his particular episode in Atlanta where I think he fucking kills it. I think he won an award for that episode that he did in Atlanta
Probably.
where he played the uncle. Anyways, Cat Williams is phenomenal.
I'm gonna check out that interview.
Hell yeah. We're doing this podcast now bi-weekly instead of every week.
Yep.
I mean,
The pre-show patron sesh is being played on the extra week, on the empty week. Wait, what is it?
right. So that's a schedule we're trying to do. Wednesdays, patrons get their pre-sesh patron show episode, and then the following week is the public episode of the episode.
Exactly. That is the schedule.
And then thereon and so forth.
So if you want to become a patron, check out our website. You'll have access to those episodes during the off week. So also access to our Discord and our little community of moms as we hang out and stuff like that.
Yep. And if you can contribute to the Patreon, that's cool. Rate, review. We appreciate that stuff and share our podcast. We love you, baby.
I'm pretty ripped.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Do I have anything left in here? I'm really hungry is what my deal is. But we got a couple of news nugs for you coming your way. Hit it, Jesse.
News Nugs, where we get high and read the news to you. All right. So, feds release marijuana documents confirming Schedule 3 recommendation based on accepted medical use. The U.S. government has released hundreds of pages of documents related to its ongoing review of marijuana's status under federal law, officially confirming for the first time that health officials have recommended the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, place cannabis in Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act. The 252 pages of documents from the Department of Health and Human Services explained that cannabis has currently accepted medical use and treatment in the United States and has a potential for abuse less than the drugs or other substances in Schedules 1 and 2. Federal health officials said the review found that more than 30,000 healthcare professionals across the 43 U.S. jurisdictions are authorized to recommend the medical use of marijuana for more than 6 million registered patients for at least 15 medical conditions. There exists widespread current experience with the medical use of the substance, operating in accordance with implemented jurisdiction authorized programs where medical use is recognized by entities that regulate the practice of medicine. So, duh, yeah, many states are medicinally using marijuana.
Attorney Matt Zorn, to whom the documents were released, sued the government following a Freedom of Information Act. I want to hear stories where people be suing the government.
Yeah,
Right?
here we go.
Request to obtain the rescheduling memo. Confirming the Schedule 3 recommendation, Zorn published the documents, including letter to DEA Administrator Ann Milligram.
And
Ann
milligram,
Milgram.
milligram.
In which the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Health writes that marijuana meets the findings for control in Schedule 3, though through his On Drugs blog on Friday. Much of the documents discuss the government's 8-factor analysis for scheduling drugs, emphasizing the importance of marijuana's abuse potential compared to other drugs, whether it has a currently accepted medical use, and its relative safety and risk of physical dependence. Regarding accepted medical use, the review looked both at current acceptance and whether available scientific literature supports those uses. On the first point, HHS acknowledged that most U.S. states have legalized marijuana for medical use, noting that some medical cannabis programs have been in place for several years and include features that actively monitor medical use and product quality characteristics of marijuana dispensed.
Regarding efficacy, the memo says the review of the available information identified mixed findings of effectiveness across indications, ranging from data showing inconclusive findings to considerable evidence in favor of effectiveness, depending on the source.
Wow, that's a lot of words.
What the fuck did I just read?
Oh my gosh.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
The largest evidence base for effectiveness exists for marijuana use within the pain indication, in particular, neuropathic pain, it says. Specifically, the agency found most authors concluded there is some benefit with marijuana in the treatment of pain conditions, generally ranging from low to moderate effect based on low to moderate quality of evidence. The review conducted by the FDA, however, did not support for marijuana providing benefit for epilepsy or anxiety. Huh? And the memo says the agency found that the risk of adverse events associated with treating PTSD with marijuana may be more substantial than any limited benefit in observational studies. Overall, there's a lack of quality clinical data to support the use of marijuana for PTSD, the agency said. Oh.
The review also found some evidence of benefit in Crohn's disease when treated with marijuana.
Our
Though
guest.
positive effects, yes, exactly. We'll talk about that a little later. Though positive effects appeared mostly limited to subjective symptoms and not disease activity. On balance, the agency continued, the available data indicate that there is some credible scientific support to substantiate the use of marijuana in the treatment of pain, anorexia related to certain medical conditions, and nausea and vomiting, chemotherapy induced, with varying degrees of support and consistency of findings. Taken together, the data support that a substantial number of healthcare practitioners have gained clinical experience with at least one specific medical use of marijuana under state authorized programs. Despite being less of an endorsement of marijuana's medical benefits than some advocates might have hoped for, federal health officials said in the recommendation that none of the evidence from the systematic reviews included in our analysis identified any safety concerns that would preclude the use of marijuana in the indications for which there exists some credible scientific support for its therapeutic benefit.
What does that sentence exactly mean?
That some of the stuff that we say is good for is good for.
Okay, so
basically.
in terms of relative safety compared to other substances, the Federal Health Review concluded that the risks to the public health posed by marijuana are low compared to other drugs of abuse. Examples: heroin, cocaine, and
Yeah, well, something we don't know.
benzodiazepines. Based on an
Benzos.
evaluation of various epidemiological databases, for visits, hospitalizations, unintentional exposures, and most importantly, for overdose deaths. For overdose deaths, marijuana is always in the lowest ranking among comparator drugs. We all know
Exactly.
this. The National Institute of Drug Abuse is on board with the agency's analysis, documents say. In comments about the newly released information, Representative Earl Blumenauer, founder of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus,
Congressional Cannabis Caucus
said the news continues the progress made toward ending prohibition. Even though this has been long anticipated, it is still a very
It is still
welcome
long
development.
anticipated. Even though it's been long anticipated, it's still long
It's
anticipated.
still very welcome development, the congressman said. It is another step toward the inevitable, like legalization of the cannabis and of cannabis, and I said of cannabis, and ending this sad chapter of the failed war on drugs. Yeah, I don't know about that if that's happening. I mean, if they deschedule it from 1 to 3, that means a lot. That means a lot because 3 is more like uh,
Three
used
oh is a
for
magic
acceptable
number.
uses for like medicinal purposes. Is basically what it's saying.
Somewhere in that ancient mystic trinity, you'll find three. It's a good song. A man and a woman have a little baby. Biggity beep 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 beep. No, you don't. Okay. A medical. Oh wait, are we moving on to the
Yeah,
next
we're
story?
moving on to the next story.
Let's do it.
So this is actually a story that it came up to me in a TikTok video that I saw, and when I googled it, I saw the lady that made the TikTok is actually got featured in High Times talking about the story.
Nice.
So
Because oh my god,
let's see what she has to say.
let's unpack it.
So, medical marijuana card for a fetus? Question exclamation point. She says here the GOP is making it increasingly obvious that they don't give a fuck about civil rights. This
Yeah.
week, attorneys for an Oklahoma woman filed an application asking the Oklahoma Supreme Court to stop state prosecutors from criminally charging women who use medical marijuana during pregnancy. The filing centers around the case of Brittany Gonzalez, a 27-year-old woman who used edibles and topicals during her pregnancy at the recommendation of her doctor. She legally obtained a medical marijuana license to do so. In October 2020, she gave birth to a healthy baby who tested positive for THC. The Oklahoma Department of Human Services investigated and found no evidence of neglect, reporting that Gonzalez's home was clean and safe environment. Still, the district of attorney of Comanche County, Kyle Kableka, charged Gonzalez with felony child neglect in May 2021.
Because they have nothing better to fucking do. They have nothing better to do. Prosecutional absurdity. Charging a woman for not having a marijuana card for her fetus. At a court hearing in August of this year, a prosecutor argued Gonzalez broke the law because her unborn child did not have its own separate state license to use medical marijuana. Yes, I read that correctly. Prosecutors say that Gonzalez is liable for felony child neglect because her fetus did not have a medical marijuana card. Felony child neglect charges carry a potential life sentence in Oklahoma. Of course, it's ludicrous to say that a fetus should require a medical license, but it's in keeping with the absolute insanity unfolding around the country since Roe versus Wade was overturned 18 months ago. Republicans are waging war on women's bodies with a fervor that I can only compare to the horrors of the war on drugs. They definitely don't give a flying fuck about women or children. And we had a whole conversation coming up to this about how we had a story back in the day that we reported that this lady had shot somebody in an Uber, which we were very adamant about frowning down upon. That's not right. But she was pregnant at the time. And her argument for not getting put in jail was that her baby didn't commit a crime, which we thought was a very interesting argument, considering the fact that
they're trying to put laws
they're
around
trying to put laws around
women's bodies and fetuses.
bodies. And it's like this ordeal where it's like, oh, well, this. And then you go, oh, well, if this, then that. And then you realize that the law is only works in the one way they want it to work. It ain't working in the way you can't use their own logic against them.
So the alarming implication of fetal personhood. Brittany Gonzalez was investigated for using prescribed medicine and found to be a good, loving parent by the DHS. But Kyle Kableka isn't interested in the welfare of her child or her rights as a parent. His argument is that Gonzalez's fetus didn't have a medical marijuana license.
Oh my God.
Stems from the alarming legal theory of fetal personhood that's being weaponized to criminalize pregnant people. Dana Sussman, Deputy Executive Director of National Advocates for Pregnant Women, NHPW, said in a March 2022 interview with Jezebel that fetal personhood is about normalizing the idea that a pregnant person is not their own person anymore, that they're subservient to the rights, individuality, and full personhood of a fetus. Whoa. If a fetus is considered to be a person with legal rights and the pregnant person's rights are secondary to the fetus, Sussman said, that leads to an environment in which violence, whether it's state violence like imprisonment or interpersonal violence, can be committed against pregnant people with far less accountability. Yeah, like these states that are trying to make it like like a death sentence if you have an abortion.
Which is insane. We are so obsessed with protecting the rights of these fetuses that we're willing to kill people. Like, what are we?
And then they don't care
Why?
anything about those babies once they're born.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's always been that way, but it's just, it's insane. It's insane that it keeps like getting worse, that they keep having a stronghold on this situation when, like, I'm sorry if, put it in the other perspective. Do you think if women were running the planet, what would guys say? The Barbie movie. Hello. Like, are you kidding me? Well, put the shoe on the other foot. Like, I've always said this, and there's tons of people out there who says, if guys were the ones to get pregnant, there would be abortion clinics like fucking McDonald's. You'd be able to get that shit in a drive-through. It'd be so easy. But since it's not, and the shoe's on the other foot, they have a stronghold on that. Guys making rules about our bodies. Imagine that. As if that's not mind-blowing enough. Parallels to the war on drugs, reproductive rights as a tool for control. Sound familiar? State violence being committed against people by targeting, criminalizing, and imprisoning them. If you've ever been arrested for weed, you know exactly what we're talking about here. The war on drugs was created as a political tool to control blacks and hippies. And we know this because former Nixon domestic policy chief John Ehrlichman went on record saying so in an interview with Harper's Magazine. Quote, the Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and the black people. Ehrlichman told writer Dan Baum, you understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night to night on the evening news.
As we know they did.
Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did.
The GOP's terrifying agenda, a threat to all, regardless of gender. The war on reproductive rights is tearing a page out of the very same playbook, criminalizing behavior to control people. We should all be fucking terrified. Not only people who could become pregnant, not only women of childbearing age, all of us, because it doesn't stop here. The anti-abortion movement is fueled by white Christian nationalism, as outlined in an essay in the Washington Post. White Christian nationalism is a toxic ideology upheld by the three pillars of freedom, order, and violence. The freedom belongs only to people that white Christian nationalists see as like them, white men. The order is to be imposed on all those they don't. Everyone else. And righteous violence is to be deployed to achieve their vision. Oh my God, that's terrifying. If you're not a straight white Bible thumping bro, and even if you are, the shit the GOP is trying to pull and should give you chills.
Take a stand against the criminalization of reproductive rights. I wrote an essay, this lady wrote an essay for this column about sexism last year, and the comments from many dudes that I should shut up and make them a sandwich inspired me to start a project where I make myself sandwiches and chat about the things. This is what her TikTok video.
That's why in her TikTok she's making a sandwich. Yes.
Can we get her on our show? Let's just get her on the show. A woman who's a person with a uterus who enjoys sandwiches. The sandwich I made about Brittany Gonzalez's fetus needing a medical marijuana license is currently at 1.3 million views on TikTok. That's how we found you, girl. So to all the dudes who are going to come for me, this is a big fat rant about reproductive rights. Make yourselves a fucking sandwich. The GOP is criminalizing pregnant women. You could be sure they'll come for you next. Well, I don't know. But okay. They write the rules.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're coming for themselves. But I would say we need to all stand together for the rights of everybody.
Yes.
Okay, and that means also women who things have been getting pretty
People that
bleak
can
in
be
the last
pregnant.
couple of years, with our rights to our bodies and what we can do and not do. And
Yeah, and on the ballot, there's going to be an amendment for abortion protections
well,
here
make
in
sure you
Florida.
guys sign on that. I actually was out at like
You signed the petition
I
for it.
did sign the petition for it.
So did I.
Yeah, and I was willing to go out there and make other people sign the petitions. Because I was like, oh, for hell yeah. So if you see that petition, sign it. It's for our rights,
It's
women's
just crazy to
rights.
me is that they want to put a mother who's providing a happy, loving environment
Right, which
to a
proven.
perfectly healthy child,
Proven.
want to put her in jail for life.
For what?
For
wasting
what?
time, wasting people's time, wasting people's
She
lives.
even did it at the recommendation of her doctor.
Yeah, and it's just again, like, get the fucking pincha. Like, what the hell? Why is it? Why are you making it your business?
They're just trying to pass, like, get
People
stuff
just
like that
they just
done,
want to
so that
control
there's
you.
stuff in law that can support
Right.
their
Their
anti-abortion
control.
laws.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyways,
All right,
guys, it's like getting more
well,
and
that
more
was the end of news
post-apocalyptic.
nugs.
Yeah, now we're gonna get spicy with a little
Some Florida
some
stories.
Florida stories.
I love you, Miami!
I love you, Miami.
I love you, Miami. Did you see the biggest ship in the world now? Now there's an even bigger ship. So there's an even bigger giant toilet in the ocean.
Have
now.
you seen that 9-month cruise thing?
Oh, I did see some things about that. And then how like you
They're
don't
like
have to
in
take
Drake's
the whole
Passage right
cruise.
now, where they're going like North Sea.
So you're
Have you
following
ever been on
people who
North
are
Sea Talk?
going? No.
Never seen North Sea Talk. That shit's scary.
No, what is that? Is that
It just shows you how rough the North Seas are, and just like the ships like toppling
Girl,
over and like crazy.
yeah.
And then they put that crazy like pirate, like Viking music, not pirate, Viking music.
The ocean is very scary, especially being out in the open ocean. Holy shit.
And that
bro.
cruise is going through there right now,
Yeah,
because
I
they're
don't
doing
know.
like the Antarctica, like the area.
Eso no sé. Yo no sé eso.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
we're
we're
not in Antarctica. We're in Florida over here. Okay, so I saw this headline. And I was like,
This
really? They're trying to
story.
pull this BS
Back
again?
here. We're back here again.
Back here again. So, newly introduced bill in Florida proposes a 10% cap on smokable THC products. The bill would only take effect if adult use cannabis is legalized by voters later in 2024.
Of course.
So
Already
this
trying.
is, they're already like, okay, we can't have this legal weed ramping.
They're already like, whoa,
freely in
guys.
Florida.
It's not like that, guys. It's not like
Let's
that.
get ahead of this issue. If it becomes legal, it's not going to be anything stronger than 10%.
Jesus, get off it,
This is
bro.
bullshit. So what?
People got time to waste. There's so much shit going on.
Is
People have
somebody
time
like?
to waste.
Is this somebody like on the medical side that's trying to like keep like so that
so people gotta keep their
still
card?
keep their
Oh,
cards?
that might be a ploy here.
Because
Only
you can
medical people
only
can
medical
get over
get
10%.
Who knows? Who
Oh,
knows?
jeez.
Who knows what this
More
is?
matraquilla.
So Florida Representative Ralph Masulo, he knows, introduced House Bill
He knows.
1269 on
He
January
knows.
5th, which received its first reading on January 9th. If passed, the bill would implement limitations on potency in cannabis products, specifically if adult use cannabis is legalized. The bill proposes strict limitations for smoking products, concentrates, and edibles. Marijuana for personal use may not have a tetrahydrocannabinol potency by weight or volume of greater than 10% for marijuana in a form for smoking, or greater than 60% in the final product for all other forms of marijuana, excluding edibles. The original filed version states edibles for personal use may not contain more than 200 milligrams of THC, and a single serving portion of an edible may not exceed 10 milligrams of THC. Okay. In comparison to other state potency limitations, Musulo's potency percentages are much lower. Also, the definition of potency within the HB 1269 text is complicated, described as the relative strength of cannabinoids and the total amount in milligrams of THC as the sum of delta 9 THC plus 0.877 multiplied by blah, 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 acid, blah, 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 and cannabinol, blah.
Anytime I see numbers or mathematical
lot of numbers,
equations,
guys,
my
so-
brain just go as a switch. Just
Woo,
shuts off.
yeah, 10% THC basically.
Numbers. I go comatose. There are a few other proposed bills for the Florida 2024 legislative session. House Bill 1435 would create registry identification cards for military veterans. House Bill 1497 would exempt specific applicants from medical cannabis treatment center licenses. Senate Bill 94 proposes reduced penalties for a person possessing 20 grams of cannabis or less for the first 3 violations. Senate Bill 166 would create protections for medical cannabis patients if they're public employees. Nice.
Huh.
Masulo anticipates that adult use legalization is right around the corner in Florida, especially with the 2024 ballot later this year that people have spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on. One initiative, millions of dollars on, Smart and Safe Florida, announced in June 2023 that it had gathered enough signatures to qualify for the ballot this year. The campaign's primary funding comes from multi-state operation
Truly.
according to a statement by CEO Cameron, expressed the company's dedication to consumers. I feel she's like what's it called? Who's the bad guy from The Simpsons? The guy who has the guy who does this?
Mr. Burns, or
Mr.
is that what
Burns,
his name
that-
is?
Yeah, Mr. Burns.
He's like,
Excellent. Our investment demonstrates our firm belief that Floridians are ready to experience the freedom to use cannabis for personal consumption, a freedom which is currently enjoyed by more than half of American adults.
Rivers said, with over 965,000 validated signatures, millions and millions and millions of dollars from nearly every part of our state. It is clear these voters share that belief that we're just like, we are thrilled the campaign has made this milestone and look forward to seeing this initiative on the ballot next November. However, Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody,
we know how she feels about it.
boo, bitch, boo, challenged the initiative just after. Settle down now, guys. Settle down. Just after the initiative gathered enough signatures.
Yeah, but they didn't listen to her.
Yeah, whatever. Fuck that bitch. The court will stick to differential standard of review and will agree that the language strictly adheres to the law and the Florida Constitution will give voters the opportunity to vote on this subject.
In November 2023, oral arguments were made by the Florida Supreme Court. In response, Smart and Safe Florida released a statement about the hearing. We believe that after today's oral arguments, it is clear that the language was drafted to conform to the roadmap that the court itself has provided in prior cases.
AKA, we paid a lot of lawyers to make this right.
Yeah, we knew the right way to go this time.
Come on. Been there, done that.
We hope that the court agrees that the language strictly adheres to the law and will allow that the city and citizens of Florida to exercise their sovereign right to decide whether to amend their constitution. So far, no more progress has been made on the case, and the future of Smart and Safe Florida's initiative is uncertain. According to data provided by, I thought for certain it was just going to be on the ballot already. According to data provided by the University of North Florida's Public Opinion Research Lab, 67% of poll participants said they would support adult use cannabis in Florida,
Oh,
Wow.
shizzo.
only 28% said they would vote no, and 5% said they didn't know or declined to answer the question.
Smoke weed every day.
I think everyone agrees with that statement. Almost a good amount of people agree with that statement. Recently, a different cannabis related 2024 ballot initiative that would have allowed medical. Oh, we already talked about this.
Oh, the homegrown wise and free.
Wise and free
No,
that
no
they
hicieron nada. Ellos no
they
hicieron
got
nada.
shut down because they didn't have the proper funding or background, like and
Right.
support to really get it going.
Yeah.
So this is another story I saw on TikTok.
Oh, this is a wild story. This is as Florida can get right now. If you're looking for Florida stories, this one's for you, y'all.
I couldn't. I was like, what? Okay, so Florida woman who became pregnant in jail will have a hearing to seek house arrest, her attorney says. Daisy Link, who has been in jail since 2022, is 4 months pregnant, prompting an investigation. An inmate who became pregnant while in a Florida county jail is scheduled to have a hearing on January 24th in which she will request a transfer to house arrest, her attorney said Thursday.
That's not the
Da-
picture in the other one, the other story you had sent me. She looks like real pretty there. The other story, I was like, man, she looks like someone everybody went to high school with.
What?
She looks actually like she looks like nice there. The other one was I think like her
Oh, she's a
mugshot
pretty
or
girl.
something.
So what was I saying?
Daisy Link 28.
Daisy Link, 28, has been held in the Turner Guilford Night Correctional Center in Miami-Dade County since June of 2022. On Christmas Day, she called her family members from jail and told them she was almost 4 months pregnant,
Dun, dun,
according to her
dun!
sister, Crystal Barreto.
Wow.
The Miami-Dade Corrections and Rehabilitation Department told NBC News last week that it had confirmed Link's pregnancy after a thorough medical exam, but declined to comment on who may have impregnated her.
Okay, como?
Link is awaiting trial on a charge of second-degree murder. Her attorney,
Wow. Oh, tell me
Marlene
more.
Montaner, said that the charge stemmed from a domestic violence incident during which Link feared for her life.
Oh.
She has been held without bond at the Correctional Center, which houses both male and female inmates, and she has no trial date set yet. So she's been
Mm.
in
Sounds like
custody since June of 2022, just awaiting a trial date. She doesn't even have a trial
that's
date
fucking
yet.
cuckoo. That is such a
That's insane.
yeah.
And for a second degree murder of her abuser,
Yeah, that gives me like Chicago vibes, you know? That gives me
what the
like
fuck?
Lipschitz, Cicero. You know what I'm talking about? In a motion filed earlier this week, Montaner cited the extraordinary circumstances of the pregnancy and asked the judge to reconsider a previous order denying Link's pretrial release and instead allow her to be under home confinement with electronic monitoring. She is in fear, and I am in fear for the baby, Montaner said in a phone interview. Pregnancy is stressful, but a pregnancy in jail takes a different form, and the stress that she's having is incredible. Especially if everybody knows, too. Like, how can you can't hide that. Montaner added that Link said she has been receiving threats from inmates and from correction staff who may fear that they could lose their jobs for allowing a pregnancy to occur in jail. The circumstances surrounding Link's pregnancy are unclear. Montaner said conjugal visits are not allowed in Florida, and Barreto said that Link does not feel comfortable disclosing details of her pregnancy over the jail's recorded phone lines.
So, a spokesman for Miami-Dade Corrections and Rehabilitation said last week in an email that it had launched an investigation into Link's pregnancy. Have you ever watched Orange is the New Black?
Yeah, I've seen the first, I don't know, 2 seasons.
Yeah. While there is no evidence of sexual battery against our inmate at this time,
Does
the
it just sound
circumstances,
like that?
it just gives me Orange is the New Black
gotcha.
vibes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe she has a relationship with a guard, and that showed
Right.
she
Yeah,
had
yeah.
a
I remember
relationship with
that.
the guard.
Yeah, she got
But she
pregnant.
can't disclose that because they'll get fired.
Exactly. So
Or
that's why they're like, that's probably one of the things that they thought of here. Like, she might
But-
have gotten violated by someone,
or she could have
working
been
there.
violated by a guard, or a guard could have allowed a violation to happen between a male inmate, because like they're claiming, I believe they claim later, we're going to read that it was another male inmate's jizz that got her pregnant.
Just go there.
All right, let's just continue with this. So
Tell me more.
so
tell
they
me
did their
more.
investigation into her pregnancy.
Was there jizz in a glove?
Tell me more. Tell me more.
That's so bad. While there is no evidence of sexual battery against our inmate at this time, the circumstances surrounding the pregnancy are currently under active investigation, the spokesman said, adding that pregnant inmates receive timely and appropriate prenatal care. The department has repeatedly declined to provide any additional information. The Turner Guilford Night Correctional Center in Miami.
Oh.
Monter said Link's murder charge arose from a situation involving an abusive partner. She shared photos with NBC News that appeared to show Link with blood running down her shoulder from her head, which Montaner said was the result of her abuse of her client had endured days before she fired a weapon in June 2022. So
Okay.
she could have been defending herself. She was like in real fear of her life because
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like the
like
Chicago, the
this person
musical.
has hurt her before, you
Yeah, for
know?
sure. And it was in self defense. According to an arrest affidavit for Link, the man who was killed had a single gunshot wound to his right leg. He died from
His,
he died
oh,
from a
but
gunshot
if you
wound
hit
to
an
his
artery, if you
got
hit
you,
an
got you,
artery in the
got you.
leg,
I
yeah,
was about to
he could
say.
bleed out.
Okay. The affidavit said that Link told investigators, "I didn't mean to shoot him. I was just trying to scare him." And that seems like the way
That's
where you
so
would shoot.
crazy.
Link said that she and the man had a verbal argument earlier and that he left the residence, per the affidavit. The defendant explained that she armed herself with a firearm and awaited the victim's return, it says. When the man came back, the two got into another argument, and the man allegedly said he would lock Link out of the house, Link told investigators. The man then began running to the residence when she subsequently shot him. The
Affidavit.
affidavit says.
Yeah.
Her attorney said Link was outside and fired a single shot in the dark out of fear.
Oh my God. So she was in fear of her life, Monter said. Anytime you're a victim and somebody has busted your head open on numerous occasions, the truth is that you're scared. Link is also charged with battery by a detainee on a visitor or other detainee, in addition to the charge of the second-degree murder, jail records show. An arrest affidavit for that charge describes a physical altercation in March between Link and another female inmate that did not result in any injuries. Barreto said she wants immediate answers from correction officials about how her sister became pregnant while in custody. Honestly, I'm outraged, she said. I have days that I can't even sleep. I'm thinking about my sister all night. See, this story doesn't even tell us about the glove thing.
Right. What happened to that part? We had, they had speculated
Did I not put
that
the
they
whole
had
story that I
oh that
no.
they had speculated that they had passed
This is what they were saying.
like a glove or a condom filled with semen through a vent, through
They
an air
even said who
conditioning
the
vent.
other inmate guy
Oh,
was.
right. There
They're
was a
like, oh, it's
photo of
this
him.
guy that they were like passing. There was like a news clip. I think that's what it was. It was a news clip we saw them
No,
saying.
but I had seen you sent me something, and I had seen they had even posted a picture of it. Oh, maybe it was a TikTok.
It was a
something.
TikTok, and then the story that I just had now had a news clip where they talk about the mom of the girls. Like, I don't believe the story that it was a glove through an air vent. Like, that's unbelievable.
Like they're trying to make it seem like she got pregnant on purpose by setting it up.
Yeah, like she asked a male inmate for his jizz through that. That's just, it sounds very far fetched and difficult. Like, how would you pass that off through a vent? Like, because they were like one floor apart, or supposedly. I don't know. It sounds super silly. And but like that's easy to prove or dispute, because like if you're trying to say this is the guy that's the father, you can easily just do a DNA test and see if it is. And if it
Right.
is, maybe it wasn't through the vent thing. Maybe a guard let something happen.
Yeah, and now they're trying to
Cover it up.
I don't know. Stay tuned.
That sounds crazy.
It's pretty interesting. I
Or
will
like
say.
that would be pretty crazy way to try to get out of jail, because like poor thing's just waiting on a
Or
trial
even to,
date.
or even to have people will look at your case again to try to hurry it up.
And then the news clip I saw, they like moved her to
or to a different
like
facility.
a different facility after this happened.
Huh.
That's
Okay.
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, so Florida.
So Florida. Hey, thank you guys for sticking around, listening to us, hanging out. We have come to the interview portion of our show. We are talking to Mandy Harlan today. It was a very nice conversation we had with a Florida marijuana mentor. She was diagnosed with Crohn's disease 9 years ago, found relief through cannabis when alcohol became unsuitable. Cannabis effectively manages her symptoms, leading to complete remission without prescription medicines. Eager to share her experiences, she guides others navigating the medical cannabis process. She talks about it a little bit in our interview, and she talks about how she brought it over to the community that her mom is a part of. Very interesting. We hope you enjoy our interview with Mandy Harlan. Here it is.
So, thank you so much for making it tonight. Tell us a little bit about being your background and how you became a Florida marijuana mentor.
Yeah, good question. Uh, so I've been in the cannabis space professionally for about 4 years. Prior to that, I actually hated cannabis. I was one of those people that really thought it was the devil's lettuce, as they like to say, and I wouldn't be around it if you consumed. Like in high school, I thought it changed who you were. I wanted like nothing to do with the plant. And then I fast forward when I was 24, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is basically an autoimmune disease where you have inflammation of the GI tract. And I couldn't really drink alcohol anymore. And I was working in corporate events and I was just around production and more people that consumed, and I got very comfortable with it. And so when it was offered to me and I couldn't drink, I thought, well, maybe this is a nice alternative. And I finally felt safe enough to try it. And I tried it and I enjoyed it. And then I realized over time, like it's actually doing something. It's not just helping me feel comfortable or relaxed in a social setting. I'm actually not nauseous when I smoke. I can eat and I have an appetite. I actually want food. There was a lot of physical symptoms that it alleviated for me. And that made me want to learn about it. It's just the nature of who I am. And so I started reading about it and trying to understand it. And I was like, oh my God, this is so simple. This makes so much sense and it fits with our body like a lock and key. And it's very clear why it was made illegal. And if everyone just knew this, everyone would be accepting of it. We would drop this stigma and this bias. And so that's why I started teaching and educating and advocating, was to share the information that I had been learning. And then over time that grew and I started to get involved with the dispensaries and do marketing and community outreach for them. And so that's kind of where I've been for the last 4 years, and also doing consultations with clients on the side to help recommend, because there's a lot of knowledge out there and it takes a lot of fine tuning. So I help them fine tune their regimen.
So, really, prior
So
to
let me
getting, oh, sorry, go ahead, D.
no, let me ask you this before it gets away from me. So you were convinced that weed was bad when you were younger. Why did you think it was so bad? Did you have like a religious upbringing, or like what were your was your family strict or something?
That's a really good question. I think I was just part of the Reagan era, like the say no to drugs. And I was
There.
that, yeah, exactly. And I was that, I followed the rules. I was that girl that made sure I did everything. I was the goodest girl, you know? And so
Goodest girl there is.
exactly. And I mean, my parents would give me little glasses of wine. So they were by no means strict, but it was very black and white as to what was okay and what wasn't okay. And cannabis was in that this is a really bad thing and it's not okay. So I didn't dare touch it.
What did your family say when you started advocating for cannabis?
Well, funny enough, so my mom is part of my whole story. She was part of my little guinea pig, I like to say, because when you start learning what the plant does and you start meeting people that it can really help, you can't help but suggest or recommend or just teach and say, if you ever want it, it's an option on the table. And my mom couldn't sleep. And I was like, she would complain and she was taking all this medicine for it. And I was like, I have something that will help you sleep. I was like, will you
Hmm.
please just smoke a joint with me at the end of the night? And I promise you will sleep like a baby. And she smoked cigarettes, so she had that association and didn't really want to do it. So I was like, what can I do that she can't say no to? And she has such a sweet tooth. So I was like, oh, I'll learn to make edibles for her. So I learned to make canna
And
butter.
those really help with sleep.
Oh my God, knock you out. And so yeah, she takes those now. And that was a huge part of my healing too, because I was like, if I am going to make them, of course I'm gonna try them. And the edible, of course, for GI upset is like, I mean, the smoking, everything is a tool in the toolbox, but the edible for GI upset is like massively helpful. So it was another part
Really?
of my yeah. Oh my God,
Because it's
it
going
goes
directly
straight to it.
to your gut.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. And you have those CB1 and CB2 receptors like in your stomach, in your gut. That's why it's so helpful. They are concentrated in your brain and in your gut for the most part. So, yeah. So my mom was like on board. Dad, it took a little while longer, but now they're both in it 100%.
Yeah, it's hard
That's
not to like
awesome.
recommend cannabis as a cure all whenever you hear about different complaints that people make, because everybody just associates cannabis with, oh, you just want to get high, you just want to relax, whatever. But when, like you said, you did your research and you learned so much about it, it's absolutely mind blowing about the ECS that it basically helps regulate like our whole system and keep us in
Mhm.
homeostasis. And it's like, oh my God, like you said, it sense. Makes sense why it helps these people with so many different things.
It's just it's like it was put here on our planet for that purpose or something. It's crazy.
I think it was, and it must be so validating to have your mom now being an advocate as well. One thing I saw on your Instagram that I absolutely loved is that you guys created like a marijuana club at the villages at a
We
retirement
did.
community. Is that the community your mom's a part of?
Yes, so they live in the villages, which is like you say community, but it's a city. It's
Yeah,
Hmm.
82,000 residences, like
it's huge.
multiple zip codes. It's huge. It takes like 45 minutes to get from one end to the other.
Wow.
And they have clubs for everything. I mean, like you name it, there's a club for it. And when she moved in, I was like, well, where's the cannabis club? Like there has to be one because the medical program at that point was at least a few years old. So I'm like, there's got to be a club for educating, and there was nothing. And we applied, and so she's the technical administrator because she's the resident there, and then I help her with the administrative tasks because her health goes up and down, as an 80-year-old does. So I help her with kind of the admin of it, but I've also really helped with the programming of it, and it has been so insanely rewarding and just changing for me to help seniors unlearn and then relearn what cannabis is as a medicine and how it can help them so much. And then I've also learned so much from them about life on the other side. It's really incredible to be hanging out with people anywhere from 60s to 90s that have lived a full life and to hear their lessons. And so yeah, we get to do sessions as well as educational, and it's been healing, I think, for all of us.
Was there any pushback at all for you guys starting this club in that community, like in that city?
So we had
Is
to
there
follow.
dispensaries in that city? Like, is it
Yeah. Yep.
okay?
Well, so kind of. So it's technically within like Ocala, Leesburg, Fruitland Park, like that. Those are the smaller cities that surround the villages. The villages is actually privately owned. It's wild by like two families. Within the villages, there are no dispensaries because every single business has to be approved by that family.
Hmm.
Uh, there's been rumors that I can't speak to because I have no idea the validity of them, but apparently there is a big partnership happening with the villages and a dispensary that has owned a license for a long time in Florida, but hasn't physically come yet. So I don't know. Who knows? That could or could not
Good
happen, but they
rumors.
all exist around it, really. And all the big ones are right there. So, I mean, they're within 5 minutes of these residents. So they're very accessible. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's something it would need to be because when you're elderly, you're not always able to drive and like so and it's crazy
Exactly.
that they had nothing before because they're probably elderly are the community that could benefit the most from it, from cannabis. And we see a growing number of older people now starting to use cannabis more.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah. And I mean, they didn't, it's funny because they'll look at us a little sideways. When we come to these, the parade, for example, we did the holiday parade and we had to be entered in a lotto to actually participate. And I was vague. I mean, I put the name of the club and we had to describe our float, and it was a Star Trek, like
Millennium
trooper.
Falcon.
Yes, thank you.
It was the
Um,
Millennium
Nice.
Falcon, but the jets were big joints, right?
yes, yes,
Yeah,
I
I
said
saw
the
it. It's
thrusters.
so cool.
The thrusters were joints. But see, I left that part out. I just said we're gonna have a Star Trek float. We're gonna have a banner, but we're the medical marijuana club, so you've got to But they were like, "You're an official club." I'm like,
Oh
"Yes."
wait, it was the Enterprise, not the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, okay.
If you said Star Trek, I just realized I don't want the nerds upsetting the nerd community. Or I'm part of your people. My husband's one of your people. She said Star Trek. I thought it was Millennium. I wasn't sure. Is it the Millennium
It's okay.
Falcon?
No, I think you're right. I think the second one was right.
The Enterprise.
Yes.
The Enterprise, yeah, that's Star Trek.
That's Star
Yeah.
Trek.
Yeah.
Dr. Future would be pissed if we got that mixed
Yeah,
up with the
our
Millennium Falcon,
producer
our
would be
producer for
mad.
our
Yeah.
show.
That's a big deal. That's a very big deal, especially when there's joints as the thrusters, you know?
Yeah, it's
We have
pretty
to be able
cool.
to picture this.
We
No, it was
definitely got to
great.
share that picture when we post about this episode so our people can
For
see it because
sure.
I thought it was hilarious. How did people react to your float and how did everybody react? Did you get it good? Were people shocked?
It was wild. So first we were in the last spot. We were literally the caboose of the parade.
Save the
And
best for last.
we're like, did they do that on purpose? Like, are they hoping everybody left already? You know? And then someone didn't show up and they moved us to spot 23. So then we were like smack in the middle.
Ooh.
And it was so funny. We're holding the banner and we're carrying the float, and you would just watch people's faces and they would see the float and then they'd see the joints and then they would look for like confirmation and then they would roll down to the banner and they would see that we were the marijuana club and then you would just see like like people like just erupted. It was I have never experienced anything like that. And
People were they're probably waiting for you to throw joints at them or something.
everybody
like they
wanted
do with the
samples.
candy.
Yeah, they're like, you got
I
samples?
bet.
You giving samples
I
now?
bet.
Everyone was like, "Where are the samples?" And I mean,
How
you just
funny.
saw they wear the veterans are very proud. They all wear their hats, they all wear their t-shirts. And I mean, every veteran that saw us go by was like the validation, like the ability to be honest that this is my medicine and it's in the parade, so it must be okay. You know, like it was unreal.
Yeah. You know what though? And I think it's like just community, man. I feel like this has happened to me recently where like I started a new job and so like I immediately pick up the vibes and we start and like I catch up on everybody throws a little something out there for you to bite on. And then it's so exciting to be like, yeah, me too, yeah, all of us.
It was so good. I mean, and it was also the people that have been smoking since like the 60s and 70s who have
Yeah,
had to
Hide
hide
it.
for so long. And then to see us
yeah.
marching in the parade, it was like, well, fuck this shit. I don't care then. You know, like everybody
They
had
pull
their
out a
badges.
joint right there and just light up.
Literally.
Oh, it's that kind of party. Okay.
It was
That's
the most,
awesome.
and this is what I do. I mean, for me, cannabis is so normal. Like I don't even think about it in that way anymore. When I first started in the industry, I kind of knew, you're a rebel with a cause. You're definitely speaking up for it. But I've done it for so long that in a large group like that, it just didn't even occur to me. And the funniest part is when we moved our float from parking space 50 to the new spot, it was everybody in the parade. You just heard this like
Chatter.
buzz, chatter, and then people coming up and taking pictures. And like, I was like, oh shit, that's right. Oh my
This
God.
is kind of a big
Okay. Like,
deal.
this is a big deal. And I think that's what made it so cool is like, you just didn't expect it. You're just doing your thing. You're just fighting the fight and moving along. And it was top, I would say top 10 experience in my life for sure. One of my favorite cannabis experiences, hands down.
That's
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 awesome.
awesome. I mean, just having a float, a weed related float, like that's it. You had me at weed related float. Okay.
Right. It was really, really special. And it's really incredible hearing those senior stories. They've shared really incredible things. There's a lot of retired military. There's one who he was actually in the Vietnam War and his buddy they smoked weed while they were there. It wasn't something that he did, but it was just he just chose not to. And then actually two of his friends that had smoked died in the war. and he blamed cannabis for their deaths because he didn't know, and all the propaganda around it could easily lead you to believe that.
Yeah.
And so he had a massive healing journey with cannabis. His wife always consumed and he was okay with it, but then he started to have knee issues and chronic pain, and he was open enough to try it, and now he's in a place where he can say, I absolutely know that cannabis did not cause their deaths. I incorrectly linked that together, and now I mean, he had a knee replacement and walked the parade with me, and I'm like, you're doing better than me, and he's like 75. And he uses the nano drops from Surterra in his water, so he just microdoses all day, and it keeps his pain super low. So it's just, you get direct contact with that patient that's getting those incredible results, that have suffered for so long, and it's so rewarding to see them feel good again from a plant
Yeah.
and not use their
Yeah.
opiates, not use, all these other medications they've been on their
Yeah.
entire life.
Well, we've talked to veterans who got off a lot of opiates because they were overprescribed and then they got addicted, and it was just really inspiring story, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. It's been a
And then a lot
blessing
of
to work with
times
them.
veterans, yeah, and a lot of times they help each other out, you know. They look out for each other because they all know what it's like. So I feel like that's kind of how you build your community. That's why we kind of did the mom thing, because we were like, well, you know, we smoke weed and we're moms. Surely there are other moms out there who do the same and feel that they, you know, really enjoy the plant. And
Hmm.
sure enough, here we are. There's so many
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah, yeah, it's so nice to have that support and to learn from each other and to be able to lean on each other and just share, even like with this community, because they're retired, funds can be tight, and so they can't run around to every dispensary buying products that don't work. So now they get to share with each other, hey, this is what I'm using, this is what I'm consuming, this is what's working for me. And even to have that dialogue with each other is really helpful because, like I said, they're used to locking themselves in a closet and being alone and having no one to talk to about this. So to actually have a community where it's a normal conversation, no question is not allowed, and everybody is open and vulnerable and sharing, it's, you make lifelong friends as well as medical support. Like, it kind of reaches so many different angles of community. It really ends up being a beautiful thing.
So
You
you've
should
worked
you
at
should get
different
sorry, T. I was gonna say
well,
you should get a marijuana club going at your mom at Century Village.
oh, Century Village.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Are you guys
Yeah, the
down
my
south? Are you in
mom.
Pembroke Pines?
Yeah, my
Yeah,
abuelita lives
yeah.
there and her mom lives there. How crazy would that be? I
I
see then
wish. Yeah, right.
maybe if my abuelita joined that club, if she knew somebody in that club and she was in that club, maybe then I would actually tell her I smoke cannabis. I feel like that's the only person in my family that doesn't know.
That's
Basically,
hard.
everybody else knows. She's
Abuelitas
very
are tough
Cuban old
audiences. Yeah.
soul. Yeah.
I grew up in Miami. I know. I have abuelitas. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
different. It's different.
And my mom is different. Like, she's old school, and she's very brainwashed by the propaganda, and she's acts like she's open minded. Because I kept the podcast away from her for a while, but then I opened up to her about it. She was not too happy about it. And then, like, I tried to get her to do the gummies, like, you know. I was like, oh, come
Hmm.
on, she gotta do the gummies. And even then, she was still kind of like, you know, they wrestle a lot back and forth with like the guilt from, oh, this is bad, oh, and then, you know. So I'm not trying to convince her. It's, you know, it's like when it's meant to be too. You know, sometimes you don't want to force it, and
Mhm,
No,
mhm.
kind of
They have
let
to
it
be open
settle in
to
a
it.
little bit.
they're on
Yeah.
their
So
own journey. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
That shame is
I don't know.
real,
One
though.
day maybe. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
for sure. And it's a
it is
battle, you know, and you gotta kind of give them the space because it's a lot of undoing, you know, that you
a
have to
lot,
do.
Mhm,
a
mhm.
lot, a lot. I worked with one of my clients was a pastor in, I want to say, Kentucky, and just he wanted to use cannabis to help him open his mind, to connect with God, to be creative, to write. And he's like, I can't. Every time I consume, I feel anxious. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me, how are you consuming? Tell me, set it up for me. How is this happening? He's like, I run to the shed. I grab the bong from behind the thing. I take a quick hit, and then I like run inside. And I'm like, he was hiding it all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, of course you're feeling anxiety. Of course you're feeling like it's not opening you. It's not a miracle. I mean, it is, but it's not. You got to work with it. And that
Because he's
same was
going
what was
into it afraid and like trying to be
exactly.
secretive and like
Yep.
hiding and quick rush,
Yep.
it's all about your mindset and your intention when you're going
In
into
the
it.
ritual.
And
Exactly. Yep. So if she's not ready, don't force her because it probably won't be a
Right.
great experience. And when they are, if they ever are, that's just, you're there to help if it ever
was the
happens.
pastor able to consume, properly and connect? Because I feel like cannabis is really good to help you spiritually as well.
I got him there a little bit. I was like, set it up, light a candle, give yourself, 20 minutes, maybe start journaling before you consume, like get yourself in a regulated space and then consume and just start with, one or two little hits. Don't think it has to be this overwhelming amount to get that big effect. Sometimes it's just a little bit if that creativity is on that edge anyway, and all you have to do is relax to really let it go.
Yeah.
And he did. He said it helped. He said that it helped. Kids play a big part in it too. He had kids, where he's running from a 16-year-old that he's like trying to tell her not to do something that he's going to do. So that
Yeah.
that played a part too. So I think he was able to let most of it go, but I think with the kids in the house, I don't think he was able to let
It's
all of
really
it go.
interesting to me that he was trying to do that though. I wonder where he got
Yeah,
that idea.
right? Which was nice. I'll welcome
And
that all
also,
day.
just one, and when you're somebody that doesn't smoke or consume ever, just 1, 2 hits is more than enough, and it should be like low dose, not
Yep,
like heavy stuff, because low and slow, because
exactly.
that if it's too much, they could easily go to quick anxiety. That's where that could really trigger that too. My mom took like a full 25 milligram gummy,
Oh no.
but it was Delta 8 that she got at some
Okay.
Oh.
store with a friend. And she was like, "Oh, it's not working." So I think she ate another one, and then
Oh.
she totally panicked. Like she had a complete
Mm.
and total awful experience. And I'm like, "What were you thinking eating that much?" Like,
I have to educate about that. I always compare cannabis to liquor because it's what people know.
yeah,
So people are like, I did an edible and oh my God, I was horrible. I will never do it again. And I'm like, you basically just told me you drank a bottle of tequila for your first time and you're never going to drink ever again. Like because drinking is socially acceptable, people take the time to learn what it is that works for them. With cannabis, people are afraid of it to begin with. So if something goes wrong, it's their excuse to say, I'm never touching it again. And it's like, well, no, you just have to work with it. You didn't understand exactly how to approach it. That doesn't mean that it is bad.
yeah,
Plus, there's so many different, and now you know what you're smoking, you know what you're consuming. Everything is kind of like labeled. I mean, it is.
Yeah,
Technically, practically labeled. I was gonna ask you too. You worked in a couple of different dispensaries, right? You said.
I did. Yeah, yeah.
All
So
right.
I worked with one plant was the original.
oh, they
Um,
had
Yeah.
some good flour.
good flour,
Yeah,
really
they
good
sure
flour.
did.
And then I got hired by them a few months before they got acquired by Sunnyside.
Mhm.
So then I worked for Sunnyside for about a year. And then when the guys that used to own one plant opened Sunburn, I left Sunnyside to go join them again at Sunburn. And then I actually got let go from Sunburn last summer. Uh, Marketing is usually and outreach is usually the first department to get cut.
Contact.
Sadly, they see
It's like the arts
education
programs at school,
literally, literally,
pretty much.
literally. Yep.
Yeah.
There's other things that can prove numbers a bit more precisely than marketing or educating can.
Yeah.
And at that time, I really had to evaluate, how do I want to be in the cannabis space? Because I learned the dispensaries, it's I thought I could be a part of something bigger, and it is. The accessibility here in Florida is a big deal. You don't have this type of accessibility in other places, and I'm really grateful for that. But working within a dispensary, I didn't have the impact that I thought that I was going to have. And it was a lot more about the numbers, and it was a lot about the numbers. um, and yes, the care for the patient was somewhat there, but really not as much as I wanted. And that was my passion, was interacting directly with the patients. So I really stepped away from the industry for a while, and the only thing I kept was the medical cannabis club in the villages, because they were my most direct connection. It was me working with individual patients in a group community setting.
Yeah, and they're seeking it out,
Yep,
right? Like they're like, yeah,
yep.
that's amazing.
And it filled my heart. Every time I would go, it reminded me why I was doing this in the first place, as I was buried under 300 emails in my inbox. And so I kept that, and I really just dedicated my passion for cannabis to that. And it's given, like I said, it's given it to me back tenfold. We've had this club for since before COVID, so like 3 years now. But it's really this year that, because I was able to focus on it more, and it wasn't just
Mhm.
something that I did, it was something that, like, no, there was a recognition that my heart is here too. It's just grown, and everybody feels it, and it's just been that much more wonderful over the last year. And so I'm happy with my choice of making that my cannabis focus.
Yeah, for sure. You personally growing, you're also there's another side, you're exploring another side of cannabis.
Mm.
Also, cannabis companies change a lot too fast, too often. There's no stability. I'm sorry. It's
Mm-mm.
just it's like a revolving door at
Yep.
a lot of the dispensaries. It's hard to take any of them seriously, because you end up having a lot of the same experiences,
Yep.
just in different ways with
Yep.
people.
Yep.
So I totally understand everything you're saying. I want to know, you've had a lot of experience with different buds from different local dispensaries. I want to hear you. What are your favorites? Do you recommend any place?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what do you like?
Yeah. I do like Sunburn. I stand behind their flower. I think
Oh,
Sunburn.
we've never been there.
Because
I'd
they're
like
not
to go there.
close. There's one in Fort
Yeah.
Lauderdale, right? That's the
On Federal
closest one,
Highway.
I think,
Yeah.
is Fort
hmm
Lauderdale.
Yeah, no, Sunburn is fantastic. I think their flour is really good. Their edibles are great. Sarah is their chef, and she's incredible. She's been there since One Plant days. We kind of went along with each other along the trail. Um,
Mm.
Jungle Boys, I love their. I'm a flower girl.
Yeah, they're
I'm
We
a
are
good.
flower
They're
girls
good.
too.
Us too.
all
We love Jungle
day.
Boys too.
Yep, Jungle
We're
Boys
gonna
is
have to make
great.
a trip up to Fort Lauderdale to try Sunburn because we haven't had
Yeah,
a chance.
they're good. I think they're worth it. Move, I like their RSO gummies, just as little poppers, just easy to grab. And they have good one-to-one gummies I like.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I would say Flowery, I'm always on the fence about. That one's a hard one for me, because Flowery and One Plant always had this like little rivalry going on. So
Yeah,
that was hard for me
some of the one plant growers went over there,
a
right?
lot,
Yeah,
Growers.
the
a
grower
Yeah.
lot.
went over there.
Yeah.
Like the
Yep. So their flour is good. I would say their flour is definitely one to try. It's not. There's some dispensaries that are super medicinal. Personally, like Cetera, Curaleaf, um, even Fluent kind of rides that line. Even though Fluent just got Freedom Town, well, not didn't just get, but now they have Freedom Town as their grower, and ever since
Yeah,
they,
that's our
honestly, whenever
favorite.
I went to
Yeah,
Fluent,
yeah,
that's what I stuck to was
yep,
there was their
that's me too.
FTH. Their
yep,
FTH products was the ones anytime I went outside of that, I usually was kind
yep,
of disappointed, so I would always go back. I'm just gonna stick to
Yeah.
FTH when I come here.
Man,
exactly.
oh my God, there's this one strain. God, oh, Jupiter, something Jupiter.
Ghost
They
Jupiter.
Mm,
Ghost Jupiter,
Ghost
mm,
Ju-
Ghost Jupiter.
Yeah, that was the one that you were like
Man, it
obsessing
was,
over.
oh my, it was like that one strain you find, you try, it's so good, and then you can never find it again. That's my
It
uh,
never comes back.
oh, maddening.
every
That
time
was
I
from
see them post on Instagram, like, can you guys bring Ghost Jupiter or Ghost of Jupiter back, please?
it
So
is when you
good.
find that one and you're like, God, why can't unless it comes from that same exact place. It's a product of nature. You hope you can get it close
Right.
again, but it's just I don't know, and I'm sure it has something to do with our bodies too, and the experience of. But there's just some where you're like, oh my God, I just want to duplicate that over and over and over again, please.
Yeah, for real. And it's
Yeah.
so different too. It's amazing to have all the variety and that you can actually pinpoint certain terpenes that you prefer over the others. And we were trying a lot at first because when we started the podcast, we were like, well, we have to become medical patients because what's the point? We have to have access to all these, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
And
we
just to
so
protect
we
ourselves
did
as well, because so now we're going
right, right,
public with our cannabis consumption, and
right.
we were like, just to be safe,
Gotta be
let's become
legit, right.
patients,
Right.
so nobody comes
Yeah,
at us.
Exactly.
not to say that there aren't some spectacular products on the legacy market. I must
Mhm.
say, I can never.
Amen.
And hey, we always bring it back to these guys that are in the legal game. They had to start somewhere, and it hasn't
Oh
been
yeah.
legal that long, so they
Nope.
started illegally.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. For sure.
So yeah, yeah. So,
All the
but
good ones.
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly. All the ones that you
all
want
the
in your
ones
ground.
that
All the ones you want growing your weed started in legacy.
yeah.
Exactly.
So
No, it's very true. In my entire time in the cannabis industry, I always bought from the dispensaries because, like you, I want to know what's out there. I am directing people and advocating, and it's important for me to know and consume that. But I also always still purchase within the legacy market. It was 50-50 for me. I never left one for the other. Um, the dispensaries fight that. That's actually a really, in Miami, especially. The legacy market is so
Is
strong
strong.
in Miami that a lot of dispensaries have chosen to just not even really try because there's no point.
Well,
But
now
yeah,
if
and they're
recreational passes, it's going to be on the 24 ballot, and it
mhm,
might is if it's on the ballot, it's
right,
going to
it'll
pass.
pass. Yeah, I agree.
I definitely think it will get it 60% that it needs. So
They
it's
seem
going
to
to
think so.
change the market completely. All of a sudden, you know, more people could get mentoring because more people are going to have
The
availability because
access,
they don't have to go through the process to become a patient now to buy at the dispensaries.
exactly.
So,
And it's going to be even more overwhelming. So the state right now, I think there's 22 license issued, and there's actually like 14 or 16 operating.
mhm,
And it was in the rules that a certain number of patients, as they exponentially grew, new licenses would be issued to additional dispensaries, and they didn't. So they actually have 22 more licenses that they're reviewing applications for right now. So the Florida market, I mean, we're already so saturated. The Florida market's about to have 22 more licenses, and when they go rec, the other licenses that are active but really aren't being used, like you don't see retail spaces yet, like they haven't actually started to grow here yet because they're all
mhm,
waiting for us to go rec. So when
mhm.
we go rec, it's holy crap. Talk about options and dispensaries everywhere. You think it's a game changer for sure.
I
It'll be
know, but
very interesting.
it will be very interesting. Also, a little nerve wracking, just because like you said, it's so saturated. We saw like prices dip and it get very competitive with amongst the dispensaries here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like what's who's gonna be the ones to stand the longest because
Yeah.
eventually there people are going to start falling, companies are going to start falling off the bandwagon.
Yep. It's gonna be a ride for a minute, like you were
Yeah.
saying, how it's like so dynamic. It's gonna be a fucking ride for a minute
Hey, but it hasn't
until it
I mean,
evens
stopped.
we're
out.
gonna
It
need
was.
options. You're gonna
Mm-mm.
go from a customer base of like what, there's not even a million patients, to all of a
No,
sudden,
800 and something
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's 800,000 people
to
now
22 million now.
to possibly 22 million people, like at least half of that, 22 million
For
is going to
sure.
be like, weed's legal. Let's
And
go
all
buy
the tourists. That's a
tourists.
lot of,
People
yeah,
coming to Florida. Think
just,
about it.
yeah. That's a lot of the
We
dispensaries are
already
already
have so much
setting themselves
tourism.
up. Yeah, and they're putting like that's one of the reasons Sunburn MedMen they purchased the MedMen license, and that's why it was attractive to them was because MedMen had put themselves in very touristy spots, and they were assuming we were going to go rec sooner than we were, and they were not able to survive in those locations by patients alone. But if Sunburn timed it right, if rec does go while they own it, I mean they're on I Drive and
They're
Key
like in
West and
Miami.
Mallory Square.
Yeah.
So yeah, Cookies on Ocean Drive, and they put those there waiting for rec and waiting for tourist rec. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but some of these like California brands are a little pricey for what they're selling. And like I will pay Jungle Boy prices and they have
I don't.
specials,
They
but
have
like the
decent
Flowery
prices
is
too.
a little hard too because the Flowery is local, but they're acting like they're from California. Prices are very, very high. Like I
Yeah.
get
When I
that
go to the
their quality
Flowery,
is great.
I just buy whatever's $40 or less an eighth. I don't go for the $50 or $60 eighths because that's just my budget right now. So that's all I can.
Yeah.
So, but there, even the $40 eighths that I can get there, sometimes 35, they're good quality, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to buy the 50, 60. There's some that are $60.
Yeah, and then you
No.
drop to 60 because you're like, oh, well, this must be good. And then it's like your homeboy that serves you regularly is giving you better shit.
Yeah.
Is
Yes.
giving you, yeah, just, yeah, and it's
There's a
definitely well
certain point
priced.
where yeah, there's a certain point where you'll pay. Like there's like this line where you'll pay it, but once you cross it, where like meaning like I'll pay $50 for an eighth if it's really good, and there's some that are worth it, but for the
Mhm.
most part, they're all gonna fall pretty much in the same category, and you could probably get it for that $35 an eighth and be just as good, maybe a point or two below that $50 eighth. Not,
And the thing is
Yeah,
that an eighth is nothing. You need
agreed.
more than an eighth, so I need to buy a few eighths because I like
Right.
variety, you
An
know?
eighth is an eighth, no matter what it is, it's an eighth.
Yeah, I need to buy like an eighth of this, an eighth of that, and at least three different options, so I have variety of strains. I like to try different ones. So like
Yeah,
it gets expensive when they're $50 each. You're talking about $150 for
Yeah.
three, for
Yeah.
three
It's
eighths.
balance.
and it's like, okay, and dude, it's like when you go to a restaurant and you're like, okay, this is a pretty pricey, fancy restaurant. And then you eat the food and it's mediocre. And you're like,
It's a
I
good
cannot believe I
comparison.
just spent that money on something I could have made better in my house.
That's
That's
a
how I feel
very good comparison.
when I spend so much money on bud that looks laughable, like at
Yeah.
times,
Yeah. No, that's
you
a
know?
really good comparison. It's like you appreciate going out and being able to get it, and it tastes okay, but you're also like, I didn't need to spend $25 on this. This is, yeah, no, yeah, true. Well, thank you for having me. I had a lot of
Thank
fun.
you
It
so
just felt
much,
like we were
Gabby.
hanging out.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah.
And that was our interview with Mandy Harlan. Please check her out at floridamarijuanamentor.com, or you could find her on Instagram at FL Marijuana Mentor.
Yes, that was a really fun interview, and that whole story with her mom at the villages and doing that
The
parade,
parade.
that was so cool.
Yeah. Hey, thank you guys for listening to us. Thank you, patrons, for being there for us. We enjoy you. We appreciate you. Yanni,
Destiny,
Lauren,
Christy,
Denise,
Peaches,
Meredith,
Natalie,
Angelina,
Jenny,
Catherine,
Jay,
Jesse,
Diane,
Gabby,
and Leslie.
We
Thank
love
you
you
guys. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone else that also made it to the end of the show. And we will see you the week after next, or patrons, you'll see the
Yes.
pre-show session next week.
If you want to see the next show next week, become a patron for early access to episodes, additional content, and all kinds of fun stuff, including Discord smoke sessions. Or you get together and watch Saltburn too, movie night. Love you guys. See you next time.
Bye.
Peace.